So in this video, I wanted to introduce you to something called traditional publishing. And we've already talked about self-publishing, where it's relatively easy, doesn't take much time to produce a book, you have control over all your own content, and the hard part is self-promotion. Traditional publishing for an aspiring author is the silver tuna. That is what we all dream of. We dream of that publishing contract with a traditional publisher. Traditional publishing has its hardships too. The hardest part about traditional publishing is waiting. Whereas a self-published book, you can have the book in your hand with an ISBN number within a couple of weeks. Waiting on a traditional publisher to accept your work is a whole different ballgame. I want to introduce you to the many-step process of going after a traditional publisher to publish your book. The very first step that you need to take with your novel, especially if it's complete, is ask yourself what genre it could belong to. This is kind of the artless part of the publication process, is admitting that your book falls into a category. If you have deliberately written within a genre, that legwork is done for you. Once you've decided what genre your book falls into, then you want to target the publishers that publish that genre. Quick Google search, search publisher, and then your genre. And then once you find a publisher, it's a really good idea to get familiar with that publisher's guidelines, that publisher's titles, what they publish, what they're accepting and what they're not accepting. It's really important to read the website and read everything about on the homepage and on the about page and all those other things. Once you've done that, then you want to look for a tab that's called Submission Guidelines or something like For Authors. Under this tab, you're going to find instructions for submitting your work. It's really important to read those instructions entirely. A lot of publishers are burnout and they're jaded by authors who don't follow instructions, so the instructions can sometimes be very condescending. Follow the instructions. The best way to think about submitting work to a traditional publisher is to think of it as applying for a job. Applying for a job is a many-step process, so is going after a traditional publisher. What you might find under submission guidelines is they will ask you for what's called a query letter, Q-U-E-R-Y. The query letter is basically your cover letter. Introduces who you are, introduces your work, gives a brief synopsis of your work, and why it's a hook for their market. There are a lot of resources on how to write a good query letter. A quick Google search will take you to those articles and sources. Once you've written your query letter, the good thing about nowadays is that they accept everything digitally, most publishers. So they'll accept a digital query letter and they'll accept a digital file if they ask for part of your manuscript. Once upon a time, we had to print out that bad boy and mail it, snail mail, to the publisher. I have gone through many reams of copy paper submitting that kind of thing to the publishers. Now, thank goodness, we can submit PDFs and Word files. So if the publisher asks for the query letter and part of your work, that's what you have to do. Okay, so once you get that done and you've chosen the best part of your work and you've submitted to the publisher, now you have to wait. Once upon a time, the publishers would give you a rejection letter. This typically takes between 3 to 6 months to get an answer back. Once they send a rejection letter, then you know, okay, then I can move forward. I can send to another publisher. Nowadays, there's two things. They frown on what's called simultaneous submissions. If you see this in the instructions, that's what this means. It means that they frown on you sending your work to multiple publishers at a time. This is up to you. It's not like they're going to know. The thing that they don't like is they don't like getting attached to a book and then contacting the author and offering them a contract and the author saying, oh, well, I already have a contract with another publisher. That's what they don't like. But in this day and age, if they don't even want to send you a rejection letter, I'm not really inclined to follow that simultaneous submissions rule. It's up to you. The worst that could happen is one publisher will be angry with you because you signed with another publisher. So it's up to you whether you want to take that risk or not. So those are the first few steps that you have to take. Decide on your genre, Google search a publisher that publishes your genre, and then target that publisher, write your query letter, and pick part of your submission if they ask for it to send. Those are the first few steps, and then you're in for a wait. For the next video, I'm going to talk about what's called the difference between agented and unagented submissions. The best thing to do if you're embarking on this whole journey as an aspiring author is to get familiar with vocabulary. Because when I started, I saw all these words and I didn't know what they meant. And I made a lot of mistakes because I didn't know what they meant. So for the next video, I'm going to talk to you about that. Okay, thanks for watching.